Tonight, a desperate plea for help to save a sibling trapped in Gaza. A world apart, a Canadian man calls for any help to bring his wounded brother out of danger.
Please save my brother. Save him. Save his family from being without dad.
Why the Canadian government told him it can't help. Plus, forced to leave Canada for the U.S.
Well, I mean, I've lived my whole life here, so it's like home.
Why this family that's called Canada home for years is being sent packing. And the back-to-school shopping frenzy.
We get what they like, we've realized, is more important than what we care about.
The last-minute rush to get set for the return to class.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Marcia McMillan.
Good evening. Israel intensified its war in Gaza City today, with aerial strikes killing dozens more Palestinians and a spokesperson for Hamas. As the global outcry against the war grows louder, one Canadian man wants to draw attention to his brother, trapped in Gaza, badly hurt and in need of life-saving surgery. CTV's Kamal Karamali with his plea to Canadians.
This is the sound of unbearable agony. Bakr Abuljedian taking shrapnel to his torso last week in Gaza, now struggling to survive. Half a world away in his Ontario home, his brother Ahmed.
It's really hard for me to watch it. It's really, really hard to watch it.
In pain just hearing his brother's cries.
I feel like I'm losing him. I don't want to lose him. I need my brother.
The injury caused by an explosion damaging Bakr's ability to digest food. Now in need of life-saving surgery that can only be delivered outside Gaza. But the issue is, just like for the roughly 2 million people in the enclave, he can't leave. His family calling us from Gaza during our interview, showing Bakr stable and resting for now. But time is running out.
He is, I think, 47 kilogram right now.
What have doctors in Gaza said about how quickly your brother needs this life-saving surgery?
If he did not get it by 1 month or 1.5 months, then we cannot control his situation anymore.
Ahmed now asking the federal government to help with an immediate medical evacuation, but Ottawa saying that is outside of its abilities.
Each country sets its own entry and exit requirements. Countries surrounding Gaza have closed their borders, making movement out of Gaza extremely difficult. Israel ramped up its strikes in Gaza today, killing dozens more Palestinians, including children and aid workers. As Israel increases its drive to occupy the area, today a flotilla left Spain to cheers and hope of breaking Israel's aid blockade, while a march took place in Israel this weekend protesting its government's handling of the war. Israel's prime minister maintaining his sights on Hamas, saying they were able to kill a spokesperson of the group's armed wing.
The hospital is the tenants.
Caught between all the politics, Bakr Abuljedian, his family showing us the makeshift hospital he's staying in, created by inflatable tents.
I told him, don't worry, you will be fine. I will get you out.
Ahmed hoping he can keep that promise so that his brother can live to see his nieces soon. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Brantford, Ontario.
Russia's war in Ukraine shows no sign of ending anytime soon. That's despite separate meetings recently between the U.S. and the Russian and Ukrainian leaders to push the peace process forward. In fact, Russian attacks have intensified. CTV's Jeremy Sharon is tracking the story and joins us now with the latest. Jeremy.
Marcia, President Volodymyr Zelensky says Moscow has only further invested in its war efforts since those talks, vowing tonight to retaliate against the latest Russian attacks. Overnight, drone strikes on power facilities in northern and southern Ukraine have left almost 60,000 people without power. In a social media post, Zelensky says, "We will continue our active operations in exactly the way needed for Ukraine's defense. The forces and resources are prepared. New deep strikes have also been planned." This is European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen speaking in Bulgaria today, addressed Europe's role in the push for peace between Ukraine and Russia.
No one wants more peace than Ukraine. And for just and lasting peace, we also know that Ukraine needs strong security guarantees. We are working on the security guarantees at the moment.
Von der Leyen pointed to the coalition of the willing as a key piece of the plan to help achieve peace, a partnership which Canada is a part of and could include multinational troops on the ground in a peacekeeping capacity. Prime Minister Mark Carney has previously said Canada isn't ruling out the possibility of sending troops to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire. Marcia?
Jeremy, thank you. Well, securing peace with Ukraine didn't seem to be high on Vladimir Putin's agenda as he met with other leaders at a summit in China. The Russian president walking the red carpet at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit today and receiving a warm welcome from President Xi Jinping. Putin will spend 4 days at the summit, which will cover security, counterterrorism, and military and economic cooperation. Among the 20 world leaders also in attendance is Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India's appearance at that summit comes just days after that country and Canada named new high commissioners to one another's countries. That move coming with both kudos and condemnation from Canada's Sikh community. CTV's Alex Karpa is in Winnipeg, gauging reaction to the diplomatic reset.
A sea of color as hundreds of people paraded down Winnipeg streets Sunday, marking Najar Kirtan, an annual celebration of the Sikh Holy Scripture.
The date in Sikh history is about the completion of our 11th Guru, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and also celebrating Sikh values and Sikh traditions.
This tradition involves processional singing of holy hymns by several groups, with events like this taking place in residential areas right across the country.
We're really celebrating a monumental day in Sikh history.
But this important milestone only comes days after India and Canada appointed new high commissioners to each other's countries, 10 months after expelling each other's top envoys. This is the latest step in restoring ties strained by the killing of Sikh separatist leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar near Vancouver in 2023. And for some in Canada's Sikh community, it's a welcome development.
All they want is the peaceful relation between the Canada and India so they can travel back to the India.
Others sharing the same sentiment.
A lot of Indians over here who are not getting the PR. So with the help of the Canadian government, they can get easily PR.
But not everyone in the community is on board. The Sikh Federation of Canada releasing a statement earlier this week expressing its, quote, deep concern and frustration about the appointments and saying in part that, quote, restoring diplomatic ties is a serious abdication of the government's responsibility to protect Canada's citizens. Prime Minister Mark Carney has worked to renew ties with India, pointing to its growing economy and sheer number of Canadians with ties to the country. But as experts point out, there is still a lot of work to be done.
Now, there is the potential, but what we also need to understand is that possibilities are not certainties, and that is a long road.
The World Sikh Organization of Canada, however, is concerned about recent events, calling on Ottawa to make sure that the newly appointed Indian diplomats do not have any ties to police or intelligence organizations and will not commit any crimes here in Canada. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Just ahead of his Labor Day deadline, Prime Minister Mark Carney opened his major projects office this week. The new federal body expected to streamline the process for massive domestic projects, but what those projects are is still unknown. CTV's Colton Prale has more.
It's the cornerstone of Prime Minister Mark Carney's Build Canada pitch, a new major projects office specifically meant to get government and red tape out of the way in the most important moments.
We don't want pie-in-the-sky projects. We want projects that have a high likelihood of success.
The new office is headquartered in Calgary and led by a former energy executive who helped oversee the construction of the Trans Mountain Pipeline.
Having someone who's had to recently actually navigate the system in building the only major infrastructure project this country has seen in a long time, I think they need that experience.
The Prime Minister says projects will be graded by how they strengthen Canada's autonomy, provide economic benefit, are likely to succeed, and whether they advance Indigenous interests and climate goals. But experts say they also need to rethink what Canada does with its resources.
Not just dig it out of the ground, ship it out for another country to process. Let's build the full supply chain here.
Among the potential projects being pitched are new pipelines and deep-sea ports, but also mines and transportation infrastructure and expanded energy grids.
Building transportation links and electricity links to the north in a way is a modern equivalent of the Canadian Pacific Railroad that linked Canada east to west when we were a young country.
But as Ottawa begins the process of choosing which projects to streamline, some say it would be easier for government to remove the regulatory burdens already in place, like the emissions cap and clean energy regulations.
Opening this office is maybe a necessary but not sufficient condition to getting foreign investors' private capital interest in Canada.
Carney has previously said he expects to announce which projects the new office will focus on in the next 2 weeks. Marcia.
Thanks, Colton. Wildfires are forcing the evacuation of another community in the Northwest Territories. The fire is burning about 2 kilometers away from Fort Providence. Officials are warning strong winds could push the flames into town. Fort Providence is the second community to be evacuated since Friday. The future of affordable daycare on the prairies is unclear. Saskatchewan and Alberta yet to strike a deal with Ottawa to continue $10 a day childcare past next spring. CTV's Alison Bamford on how the uncertainty is creating stress for families and providers.
I love to work. I love where I am.
What started as a part-time job 5 years ago became a full-time passion for Rosemarie Turk.
I'm making an impact in their life, the same as they're making an impact in mine.
Under the federal $10 a day child care agreement, early childhood educators like Turk receive a wage top-up, allowing her to work full-time without requiring a second job. But that could change.
I worry every day, am I going to lose my job?
The agreement expires this coming spring. Saskatchewan and Alberta are the only two provinces that haven't signed a 5-year extension with Ottawa.
These discussions will continue over the next several months, and I can assure you by the 2026 we'll have a new agreement in place. I'm fairly confident of that.
The uncertainty still has Turk lining up a plan B. Like so many families, she too relies on the subsidized daycare for her 4-year-old granddaughter.
And if I lose that, then I lose her daycare space.
And some centers might not be able to operate.
It's hard to plan for the future when you don't know what's coming.
But Kara Steiner says a new deal isn't the golden ticket out of their financial challenges. Under Saskatchewan's current model, funding varies based on when licensed childcare programs started, and Steiner wants every provider to be on the same playing field.
Some are funded at a much lower level than other programs are, and it makes it difficult to provide the same level of quality.
The province plans to review financial supports in place for all childcare facilities and says it's ready to renegotiate a deal with the federal government at any time. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Montreal's Felix Auger-Aliassime has pulled off one of the biggest wins of his career with a comeback win in the 3rd round at the U.S. Open in New York. In 3 hours and 49 minutes, Auger-Aliassime bounced back from a difficult first set to beat 3rd-seeded Alexander Zverev. This is his first career Grand Slam win over a top 5 player. The 25th-seeded Auger-Aliassime now moves on to the 4th round. Coming up, concerns grow in Newfoundland.
This is the first time I've ever seen it dry. I've lived here all my life.
How communities are grappling with less water as wells run dry. Now to a heart-wrenching situation for a Quebec family. After living in this country for a decade and a half, Immigration Canada has given them just days to get out. For their children, Canada is the only home they've ever known. CTV's Sweeta Rassi explains why they're being told they have to pack up and head to the United States.
For 15-year-old Stella Fig, this could be her last soccer game on Canadian soil.
Well, I mean, I've lived my whole life here, so it's like home.
Stella was born in the United States, but moved to Canada when she was a baby. Her parents moved here for work 15 years ago with Stella and their son. Ever since moving to Canada, the parents welcomed 4 more children. For them, Canada is all they know.
So it's really challenging to know that I might have to restart at zero.
But after coming back from a trip to the U.S. on Monday, Alice Fig says they were stopped by Border Patrol.
We were being given 2 weeks to pack up our house, to sell our house, to liquidate our assets, and to leave Canada.
It turns out their work visa was expired. Federal documents show that the parents, along with their 2 American-born children, must leave the country by September 8th.
That's the shock. That's where the emotion comes out of just being dismissed after all that we've done to work to be here legitimately.
The family tried a few times to apply for permanent residency, but to no avail. Brent Fig says in the past, after their work visa would expire, they were usually given a 90-day grace period to reapply. But this time around, that wasn't the case.
So we were well within that window.
Though the Figs moved around before, since 2017, Quebec has been home. The kids are enrolled in French schools, made friends, and planted roots in the Eastern Townships community. But now all of that is in jeopardy.
Our kids are in shock. Yeah, they know what's happening. The Canadian kids did go back to school this week just to say goodbye to their friends, just to have some last contacts.
CTV News reached out to Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada on Sunday, but did not hear back in time for broadcast. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
Still ahead.
I'm Maria Saru in Mount Stewart, Prince Edward Island. Tonight on CTV National News.
My entire life is in their hands.
One woman's move in limbo.
This is a very unregulated area.
And warnings about how some moving companies rewrite the rules. That's coming up on CTV National News.
Rain this week was welcome in many parts of the country, plagued with hot, dry conditions. In Newfoundland, it was a boon for homeowners watching water in their wells shrink. Here's CTV's Garrett Berry on how these declining water levels are impacting communities.
Retiree Robert Kerr has lived in this house in the Goulds neighborhood of St. John's for decades.
This is the first time I've ever seen it dry. I've lived here all my life.
Never has his well been so troublesome. Just look at this ring where the water line usually rests, and notice how much further down it's sitting now. He's doing everything he can to preserve some water. He set up this tarp to try to redirect some raindrops into his well. And this year, for the first time ever, he had to rent a portable water tank to ensure there's enough to run his taps.
My daughter talked me into that because I was running back and forth to the community center down there with buckets and whatever could hold water.
Rain has just been hard to come by this summer in Newfoundland. St. John's has seen about half of its usual total so far this season. So many houses are low that business at the laundromat is starting to pick up.
Usually we get a couple of people per day that come in and it's like, yeah, our well is running dry, or this is happening or that's happening. And but there has been an abundance.
City Councillor Carl Ridgely says it's enough of a problem that provincial and federal governments should increase funding to allow houses currently on wells to connect to city systems.
One of the risks that are there now with climate change is that people are losing their water. In 2025, something has to be done to assist these residents.
Robert Kerr says the only thing left in his power is to hope for more rain. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
A woman's move to another province has turned into a nightmare. The company she hired to transport her belongings wants full payment before finishing the job, contrary to what both parties agreed upon. CTV's Maria Saru with the red flags to watch out for in a situation like this.
This is all Amber Booth has of her belongings. A few bags that fit into her car when she drove from Ontario to PEI. She says everything else, including priceless items, are being held hostage by the moving company she hired.
Things like my service medal from when I was deployed overseas. Pictures of my partner's mom who passed away from cancer when she was 12. My entire life is
in their hands.
Booth trusted All Canada Van Lines with the move. There was no contract, just a verbal deal. She paid half the quote up front, about $2,200, and she says the plan was to settle the rest later. But then the company called, saying their policy changed. She has to pay the full balance or no delivery. Booth says All Canada Van Lines confirmed their commitment in writing via text, but she's not convinced.
I don't trust that they will, even if I pay them.
A man who identified himself as an assistant accounts manager at All Canada Van Lines confirmed on a phone call that company policy did change after Booth's items were picked up, saying that decision was made to protect the business.
We've been cheated thousands of dollars. That's the reason we made sure that we clear the invoice one day prior to the delivery.
But changing terms is a problematic pattern consumer protection experts say they're all too familiar with.
This is a very unregulated area. I mean, I could just go outside with a pickup truck and say, I'm a moving company and I promise to get your stuff from point A to point B for X amount of dollars.
Booth has complained to the Better Business Bureau and says she's ready to fight this in court, which can be a lengthy process. The Canadian Association of Movers says this situation sounds like a scam. They're warning people to always get commitments in writing and hire companies within their directory so they can enforce their code of conduct. Maria Saru, CTV News, Mount Stewart, Prince Edward Island.
Still ahead, it's that time of year, what some parents are doing differently this year to keep back-to-school shopping stress-free. Across Canada, parents were diving into the last-minute rush today to get those all-important school supplies before classes start. CTV's Kimberly Johnson found out how some families were handling the back-to-school shopping scramble.
It's a busy day of shopping for Victoria Glocking after suddenly realizing her daughter needs new shoes.
All of a sudden, she has shoes the same size as me, so we needed a new pair.
So shopping ahead of the return to class it is, and she says she's happy to let her daughter call the shots.
We get what they like, we've realized, is more important than what we care about, because then they won't wear it. So it's you kind of have to go with it.
10-year-old Abby now has her first day outfit. Mom Krista Kilray says that her children are given a budget to buy what they want because it's a good time for one more lesson.
Because it teaches them that if the one kid wants the $50 jeans and one kid gets 4 t-shirts for that price, they can make that decision for themselves. And they actually don't need any new clothes. This is a want and not a necessity.
Crayons here, so I always look out for the ones on sale, and the brand I have here is on sale.
This mom says it's all about the deals today, but shopping overall this season has come with a cost.
Snow suits, snow pants, snow boots, fall boots as well. And I noticed the prices have gone up considerably higher than what we bought last year. I think 3 to 4% higher.
Everything from clothes to paper and pencils are needed as the clock ticks down.
It's a panic. It's definitely a panic. We just look for deals. That's the main thing, right?
Kimberly Johnson, CTV News.
That's our newscast for tonight. I'm Marcia McMillan. For all of us at CTV National News, thanks for watching. Good night.